afternoon, everybody, and welcome to DNN, the Doomers News Network, where we don't put a positive spin on all the financial news. We just call it like it is, and it has been a particularly doomy and gloomy day, and we just had to go live for the closing bell. I am joined today by Miss Melody Wright and my buddy Travis from Real Estate Mindset. Travis, take it away, brother. What is going on in the market today?
A lot is going on in the market today, man. Just real quick for the viewers, we got a couple stories. It's going to be a little bit of a freestyle. We're really going to dig into Japan's potential manipulation in the yields. Melody's going to cover a lot in that regard. We're going to talk about the Blackwell chips as well, I believe, Jack. But let's start by letting the viewers know how we ended today in the market. So now, this is absolutely insane. Again, we're going to try to figure this out, but the 10-year has been absolutely all over the place. Right now, sitting at 3.775. Look at the 2-year. 2-year is also sideways. Again, massive movement in the 2-year and the 10-year. Absolutely insane movement today. Probably Japan. We'll figure that out a little bit later. Dow ending quadruple digit down. Okay, so 1,033 points down on the Dow. S&P down 160 or almost 3%. NASDAQ down 576 or 3.4%. A lot of craziness, a lot of selling off. And look at VIX ending 64% up at $38. This thing was up to about $60 today, so absolutely wicked. Here's gold ending today at almost $2,500, $2,453. Here's crude oil right now sitting at $73.71. Bitcoin still down, unable to rebound. Not double digits, but down 9.7%. Here's the Japanese yen, $143. And just for flavor, you guys ever hear of Open Door? Anyone wonder what's going on with them? Anyways, just wanted to end with Open Door because, you know, I don't know, maybe they're going to go bankrupt, maybe they're not. But if they are, you heard it first here. And I just wanted to say before I passed it to Melody, I'm really looking forward to covering everything that's going on in the market. Obviously, all of us have been talking about and cautioning consumers a very long time. So it has been a long day. I think I'm on hour 13. So Melody, take it away.
Sure, I guess I'll start. We're just going to review a couple quick stories. A lot happened today, guys. So we want to make sure, yes, there was a lot going on in the markets, but there were a lot of breaking news stories that we want to discuss. And Travis, if you want to share my screen, you can go ahead. So this is huge, guys. So basically, we know that we woke up to a tech rout that largely we think had a lot to do with the reversal of the yen carry trade. But Google is one of these stocks that got impacted. But in late breaking news, at the end of the day, here we see they lost a massive antitrust lawsuit over its search dominance. So this is a huge a loss for Google, and didn't have a lot of time at the end of the close to see what that would do to accelerate this tech route. But this is something that everyone should be keeping their eyes on. Another story that we didn't have a lot of time, and let's see, I don't think it did. Excellent. Okay. Tropical storm Debbie it made landfall. And there's just a ton of rainfall, a ton of flooding that I've been hearing about in Florida. My sister is actually stuck in Honduras right now. She can't get home because she could not get through Miami. She was down on a mission trip there in Honduras. So this is a big storm, and there's a lot of rainfall coming. And guys, we talk a lot about hurricanes. We talk a lot about fires on the West Coast. But in reality, some of the biggest insurance losses come from flood and flood risk. And so even though this is just a tropical storm at this point, the potential for losses is massive. And we all know that Citizens, that is the government-backed insurance in Florida, people are very worried that they're going to burn through their reserves this hurricane season. So any of these storms could potentially make that happen. And just because it's just a tropical depression, there's still a lot of flooding risk, and that's going to be very, very expensive. Another interesting thing that happened with Tropical Storm Debbie, we just found out, and this is going to play, is that they found $1 million worth of cocaine on the Florida Keys beach, and apparently washed it to shore. So somebody was a little happy this morning on their beach walk. But I'm going to turn this over to Jack in just a second. The important thing here, guys, is yes, a lot going on in the market today, but there's still a ton of important stories you want to pay attention to, because oftentimes it's, and I guess, Jack, I don't know if you and I talked about the fact that we just think that a US base was hit. I don't even know that we've either one of us were going to cover that, but that's also another story. So on days like this, it's not one thing that happens, it's a whole bunch of things. And sometimes, people use days like this to distract you from one of the most important stories. We don't know what that is. We'll find out later. But over to you, Jack.
Yeah, real quick, that one we just talked about a second ago, the U.S. base. I saw whispers on Twitter from some of the OSINT channels or open source intel channels that a base that houses U.S. troops in Iraq was hit by something. We don't know what. No word on casualties, no word on how big the destruction was. So that's just coming in. I don't have any information beyond that, but it doesn't look like that was the much anticipated Iranian retaliation that a lot of people are expecting. It's supposed to happen. Iran has promised revenge for the assassination of a Hamas leader in Tehran and a Hezbollah leader in Beirut. And so they've said they don't want open war with the Israelis. So it's probably going to be one of those telegraphed partial retaliations. Fun stuff going on in the Middle East, or Monday, as we call it here in the States. The story I wanted to talk about, though, there's a couple of quickies. Let's get through. Travis, could we share my screen, my good man? Here's the first one. And this is some of the carnage that was going on. I talked about this on my channel this morning, but this is a pretty big deal because it goes to show you how severe the situation in Japan really is. And what we saw today, there's a lot of people are saying, oh, it's because the Fed didn't cut or it's this or that. Really, I think this carnage is being driven, if not entirely, mostly by this yen carry trade unwinding in Japan, something we've talked about a lot on this channel. Credit to Melody, who has been all over this story for the last couple of weeks in the live stream. So you guys don't need a refresher on what the yen carry trade is if you've been watching this. But as the yen carry trade has been unwinding, we've had a bloodbath in Japanese stocks. The Nikkei index was down 12 to 13% yesterday. That's the index, guys, not a single stock, the whole freaking index. That's unbelievable to see a drop like that in one day. The worst day for Japanese stocks since Black Monday of 1987. Which means last night was worse than the Tohoku earthquake and the ensuing tsunami that wiped out the Fukushima nuclear plant. It was worse than that as far as what Japanese stocks just did. So this is really bad what's happening in Japan. And I want to point out what's going on with their banks. In particular, their three largest banks. MUFG, that's Mitsubishi UFG Financial Group, drops by a record as Japan banks lose $85 billion in value. Banks are among the worst affected stocks during the rout, and declining bond yields and the weak yen put pressure on their earnings. Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group and Mizuho Financial Group shares fell the most on record on Monday as a stock market rout sent Japanese banks tumbling. And look at the declines here, guys. MUFG, the nation's biggest lender, so this is like their JP Morgan, saw their stock sink 18% at the close in Tokyo, while Mizuho, which I guess would be like their Bank of America, slid 20%, and Sumitomo, we'll call that a Citigroup maybe, that one dropped 16%, also a record. So the first, second, and third largest banks in Japan, record declines in their stocks. The three companies combined lost about 12 trillion yen or $85 billion in market value in just the past 2 trading days. So, guys, if this was happening here in the States, you're talking about, a JP Morgan and Bank of America being down high double digits, even at the worst of the banking crisis in March of 2023. We didn't see anything like that in our banks, not our big banks here in the States. These are global, systemically important banks, and they're down high double-digit percentages in a single day. Keep your eye on those Japanese banks. I'm having a hard time believing somebody isn't out there behind closed doors in emergency meetings right now, blowing up because of this yen carry trade and the margin calls. And maybe they're just trying to get later in the week before they announce this stuff. But I think by the end of this week, we're going to hear about somebody big blowing up over in Japan. Another one I think is slipping under the radar is this story here. Nvidia's new AI chip delayed due to design flaws, according to a website called The Information. This is potentially massive. And this story got no traction this morning because of everything going on in Japan. but this could be as big, maybe even bigger as the Japan story, depending on how severe it is. We just don't really know. Now, the chip maker informed Microsoft about the delays this week, and big shipments of the Blackwell series are delayed until the first quarter of 2025. Nvidia's upcoming AI chips will be delayed due to design flaws, the information reports, citing 2 unidentified people who helped produce the chips and its server hardware. Now, this is important, guys. They're talking about design flaws because they are in late stage mass production of these chips already, which means the testing is supposed to be done. The proof of concept is done, right? They're mass producing, getting ready to ship the things, and then all of a sudden, whoops, design flaw. So now it was just a few days ago that Jensen Huang was at the SIGGRAPH conference. It was on July 29th, and he was saying that they're sending out samples of the Blackwell chips and that they're ready to begin mass shipment this month. So as recently as a week ago, Jensen Huang gave the market the impression that everything was fine with these Blackwell chips. I'm sure he was wearing his black motorcycle jacket when he did it. And any similarities between that and Elizabeth Holmes' black turtleneck are purely coincidental, I assure you. Reading on here, the chips may be delayed by 3 months or more, which could affect NVIDIA's customers, including Meta, Google, and Microsoft, all of whom have already paid tens of billions of dollars from these chips. Now, again, guys, I got to stress, we're in late-stage production here. There should be no surprises. To find design flaws after late-stage production, that's fishy. That's very fishy, very suspicious. They've already sold a lot of these. Hopefully, this is just something that they can very quickly tweak and resolve. But if this becomes a major issue, a major performance issue for these Blackwell chips that they've already sold tens of billions of to these big tech companies, now we're talking about an event that could have a severe material impact on NVIDIA's earnings. And NVIDIA reports earnings in the next couple of weeks. And if there is anything that can turn around this market sell-off, it's NVIDIA's earnings, which up until today, all indicators were those earnings are going to be fantastic. But if this Blackwell thing is really as bad as they're saying, and if it is going to delay them, well, what would that impact be on NVIDIA's earnings? That could potentially be every bit as big for the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 as what we saw today, because NVIDIA is the single stock that is holding up the entirety of this market. And, well, there were some people on Twitter were trying to say that this was fake news. Sounds like that was wishful thinking, because we've now got multiple admittedly anonymous sources from Microsoft and Google confirming that this communication has been received about the delay in Blackwell's chips. And by the way, coincidentally, while that's been going on, there's Jensen Huang in his stupid jacket. He sold $323 million of stock in just the month of July before the decline. It turns out that picture of Jensen Huang signing the woman's chest, well, that marked the top in the stock, and he is selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of shares. NVIDIA Corp's Jensen Huang continued his summer of selling, offloading a record $322.7 million worth of shares in July, just ahead of a wider tech stock sell-off. Combined with the shares he unloaded in June, the chipmaker's co-founder and CEO has now sold $500 million worth since the stock hit its peak amid an AI-fueled rally. And I would add that there has not been one single insider buy of NVIDIA stock since this ChatGPT release, since the AI mania. Every single insider transaction for NVIDIA has been a sell since that started. So while they're telling you everything is great, while they're doing stock buybacks, all those executives, they're selling their personal shares. And Trav, that is what I got. Back to you, brother. You're muted, buddy.
Apologies. It's been a long day. I was just simply saying before I hand it off to Melody, I just wanted to give you guys a quick update on some things that I found that I thought would be interesting. Let me remove that real quick. Me. Yes, I know. All right, let me show you real quick. Something I haven't gone over yet is this is Fred active inventory is updated. I think Melody has covered this a few times, but this is going up. We're not quite at 900,000. This is active inventory, though, 884. Now, what's interesting, though, Jack, Melody, we did have an update here on the reverse repo market. Reverse repo market sitting at 316 as far as 316 billion. So hopefully some movement downward, because this thing has been stuck for quite a while, but that did update today. Something else I think we may have missed.
Trav,
This is
I'm
very,
sorry. Could we pause on that reverse repo for a second? Could you bring that one back up? Because that's pretty big, right?
We're
Now,
here. Yeah.
316, that's the lowest we've seen in a while. Could you zoom out just a little bit on that chart?
Okay.
Reverse repo is excess liquidity in the bond market. That's, I mean, maybe there's somebody could give a better definition, but that's essentially what it is. It's excess liquidity in the bond market. And reverse repo had been falling through the whole Fed tightening cycle until about March, April of this year, when it leveled off and it stopped falling. And that's had a lot of people scratching their heads because the Fed is supposedly still tightening, even though they're not really. Financial conditions have been loosening this whole time. But that stopped falling. 316 billion. That is the lowest we have seen since the initial rise a few years ago. So on a day like today, which I guess the data that we got, that would be the reverse repos from Friday, I believe is what they're reporting. Data updated as of August 5th, I think. So that was probably Friday's data. But that shows somebody was out there with a lot less cash to spare, which kind of supports that liquidity is starting to tighten up, that this yen carry trade is causing some stress. 316 billion, it's not a huge drop, but it's the lowest number we've seen in a long time. So that's important because some bank, some fund is probably getting in trouble, is what that means.
I'm going to say nailed it. All right. One more thing, Jack, that I think we missed. I didn't even get to the thing I thought we missed. Take a look at this. 5-year break-even inflation rate for the first time, and I think this whole quantitative tightening cycle, it's under 2%. So the 5-year break-even, again, this is the market's expectation. Look at the drop. The shocking thing here is how, again, everything starts slowly, and then just it appears it's just suddenly everything falls apart. But we see that in that 5-year break-even. I think what we see there, Jack, Melody, correct me if I'm wrong, is the market starting to understand what we've been saying this whole time. It's probably a recession coming. In fact, as Melody, I think you would say that we're already in recession. Is that right?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I
It'll
agree,
be
Travis.
called by whatever political person gets, in office, likely. But go ahead. Sorry, Jack.
No, that's all right. I agree. I think we're seeing inflation expectations coming down because the consumer cannot afford any more inflation. The consumer's broke. We're seeing that in the consumer staples that are reporting: Procter & Gamble, Colgate, Palmolive, Pepsi, right? All these presumably safe categories, they're all seeing declines in the volume of sales because when they raise prices, they're selling less. They can no longer pass those prices on to the consumers. And then we got ISM data today. We got the ISM Services Index. And last week we had the ISM Manufacturing PMI. And both of those showed prices paid by consumers are rising, and they're rising faster. So we've got corporate margins are getting squeezed. The prices to produce things are still going up. They're unable to pass those costs on to the consumer who can't afford it, which means higher unemployment is on the horizon. And with higher unemployment usually comes lower inflation. So I think we're seeing that built into the chart there.
I did have a question for Melody, because I know we talked a little bit, Melody, and what Jack went over, it's kind of funny how everything's kind of intertwined, but going back to the yields and going back to how possibly Japan manipulated the yields and kind of balanced it out. Melody, do you think that the bank losses that Jack was mentioning, which were a lot of bank losses, do you think that that's possibly why, or possibly as a result of those bank losses, those banks in Japan sold 10 years for liquidity? Do you think that's a possibility?
So we don't know. We can't say for sure. And I haven't seen the flows and what's really going on. But I think the big takeaway for me today is I know my friends in the mortgage industry very well. And I know that they were doing a little dance this morning when they saw rates. What it looked like they were just plummeting, right? And everybody got visions of refinance booms in their mind. And there was some celebrating out on X Twitter about it. So I think that they're ending the day in a very different mindset because we saw those yields go back up. And so meaning somebody was selling. Now, we talked earlier today, Travis, on your channel, that there are theories out there that with Japan, with its GDP to debt ratio being so abysmal, that likely what's going to happen is to support their own market, to support their currency. There's going to be the Japanese will be incentivized by their government to repatriate money back home. And so there was definitely someone selling that 10-year today. And it's going to be important to understand who, because I think so many people have gotten used to when we hit these troublesome times, rates just plummet, right? And then you think, okay, now refinances will make sense. Now maybe the people on the sideline will come back into the market. But there was a floor here, and it was a hard floor. And you could see kind of the resistance all day long.
I had a clarification question, Jack, and this will tie into Melody on the chip factory that you were discussing. It's just with the chip. A lot of people don't understand how much money was kicked into these whole chip factories. Can you clarify, Jack? Is that the chip? Is the chip factory essentially that they're building in Surprise, Arizona? Melody knows what I'm talking about, near Phoenix, Arizona. Is this the same? Is this going to affect that chip factory?
No. The story that was Nvidia. Their Blackwell GPU is their next version of the big AI chips. Those are made by Taiwan Semiconductor. They've already been made by Taiwan Semiconductor, and now they're finding a problem with them. The chip factory you're talking about, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is an Intel factory that's being built. Nvidia chips are not being built there. That factory is not operational yet. That's future chip production. We hope that will be built as a result of the CHIPS Act, which in my opinion was really just a stealth Defense Production Act, because we need chips for missiles. And well, if the missiles we are going to use in a war with the Chinese over Taiwan, well, if the Taiwanese chip factories get blown up, we can't build our missiles and can't defend Taiwan with them. So I think the chip factories has a lot more to do with the military than anything else. But no, the factory in Arizona does not have anything to do with the Nvidia GPUs that are being delayed.
Melody, do you know Jack S? Thank you for the support, brother.
I know.
Melody, oh my God. I already know. I already knew you did, Jack. All right. I knew you knew him. But Melody, do you know who Gregory Marino is? And do you appreciate his insights? And thank you, Jack S. What are you drinking over there, Jack, by the way? What are you drinking?
It's Brondo. It's the stuff plants crave. It has electrolytes.
Okay. You got Miracle Grow in there?
I don't know who that is, Travis. I'm sorry.
All right, Jack, who's this? You win.
Greg Manarino is one of my favorite fellow tubers. He's a really nice guy. He's a very animated, very colorful character, a very angry character. He shares an angst and an ire towards the central banks that I do. And let me just say, Greg is just a stand-up guy. One of my first experiences on YouTube was I messed with his indicator. He's got an indicator called the Manarino Market Risk Indicator, or the MMRI. And I made a video years ago where I tweaked his indicator. I messed with the formula a little bit. I called it the Modified Manarino Market Risk Indicator, or the MMRI. And Greg was a total sport about it. He had never heard of me before. He had never seen me before. I was this, little nobody channel. I had like 400 subscribers at the time. And when Greg shared the video and invited me onto his channel, he was really nice about it. He could have, just cussed me up and down. Who's this nobody who's messing with my formula? But he was very cool about it. And he blew up my channel when he did that. So I owe a big debt of gratitude to Greg Manarino. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy. And yeah, I do think he would make a great guest for the channel. That is an excellent idea. To my fellow Jack S. Thank you. Jack S, not Jack S.
Melody, can I ask you a question? And feel free to change the subject, Melody.
No.
What is it? Darn it. All right, fine. Jack, I have a question.
No, you can. No, you can.
I know. Who's your favorite YouTuber? Or I want you to give the viewers 3 YouTubers, not us, that you listen to, that you respect, to get information on the markets. Who do you listen to, Melody?
Well, so I think, so I like to get information on the markets, but I like to do a ton of research and to understand the markets and the plumbing. And so I'm going to give a shout out to Eurodollar University, but honestly, you have to go back to the very beginning of that show and watch it. And it's how I really have come to understand how liquidity and collateral shortages are in the market. And so originally that
is a Eurodollar.
There he is. That's Jeff.
Thank you, Travis. And so This is Jeff Snyder, but the original show was Emil Kalinowski and Jeff Snyder. This is it's a must-watch channel. Sorry. But honestly, I would go back to the beginning because they really break down complicated concepts for you to understand. Also, it'll help you understand how little control the Fed actually has. Some other YouTubers that I watch for deep dives, Weston Nakamura is somebody I've been following for a very long time. He's Across the Spread, I think is his YouTube name, but he's an expert, in Japan. He's an expert in Japan. And the third one, there's so many to choose from. I'm going to get in trouble, Travis. But I would probably say Adam Taggart as well, just because.
Greetings, friends. I'm your host, Weston.
Yes. So Weston, for people who want to understand what's going on in Japan, he is there. He's there, and he's the best. He did a Spaces last night with Michael Gayad on this issue, who is also, Jack, I know you've called out how he's been talking about the yen carry trade. So this is the guy to go to when you need to understand Japan. And then Adam Taggart, just because of the variety of guests that he brings on, there's so many views that you can get from his channel, different experts.
We saw the house.
Including myself. Okay, there you go.
Shameless plug, Melody.
I didn't do it. You did. But okay. So those would be, since you put me on the spot, as always, that would be 3.
Okay, Jack, same question to you. We'll get to this here in a minute, but same question to you. Who do you listen to? Name 3 YouTubers.
Okay, so this is a bit of a challenge because I too would have said Adam and Eurodollar. I think both are great. I like Adam's style, and Adam has a very good repertoire of guests that he brings on his channel and does very well. Eurodollar, Jeff is a really smart guy and fantastic content that I find myself pausing and rewinding and rewatching several times whenever I watch him. If you're newer to finance, you might struggle with Jeff a little bit because he goes to a higher level than a lot of the other channels that are out there. But if you're more learned in finance, then I think you'll enjoy Jeff's channel a lot because you can get more out of it.
Just go to the early shows if you go to the early shows of Eurodollar, you can find those on Emil Kalinowski's channel. They truly go through just breaking down very complicated concepts in very sort of elementary ways. Sorry, Jack, keep going.
Nope. The other guy I would say, especially if you're newer to financial concepts and you want to learn, great teacher, Joe Brown from Heresy Financial. He was actually one of the first financial YouTube channels I ever started watching. I learned a ton from Joe. I still learn a lot every time I watch Joe. Whenever I see something in markets that doesn't make sense and I have a theory, Joe is one of those guys that I tend to bounce it off of. I always get a very thoughtful answer. Stand-up guy, really smart. I know you've had him on your channel too, Travis. And I got to give him credit. He has been a housing bull for the last few years, and he has been right. So he went against the flow. He is something of a fellow doomer, I'll say. He definitely tends to subscribe to the doom, but when it came to housing, he's been pretty bullish, and well, he got that one right. And one last one I'll mention, I'll say Jay Bravo. Johnny Bravo is not his real name, but Jay Bravo's pretty good. He's a goofball. He's funny. There he is, the second one down there. That's him. Don't let the hair fool you. He knows what he's doing. He's pretty goofy. He's funny. It's kind of a half stand-up comedy act, half trading information. And he's pretty good at technical charting and TA, which is not something I'm particularly good at. So I like to watch Bravo's channel also. And he does every day. He works every day. He never, ever takes a day off, not Saturday, Sunday, Christmas, anything. He's very reliable, Old Faithful.
I remember Old Faithful. Wasn't there an earthquake that shook Old Faithful and it was no longer Old Faithful? Isn't that was it a geyser? Is an Old Faithful a geyser, Jack?
Yes, Old Faithful is a geyser.
Okay, just clarifying that.
Travis, what about you?
As far as who do I watch?
Correct.
Okay, well,
And
DNN.
No. You gave us the rules. You put us on the spot, buddy.
You know who I've been watching, recently that I like on real estate? He's covering, besides the usuals, Jared Jones. I've actually been liking his stuff a lot. He's a broker, a real estate broker out in, I don't know if you guys know him here. Let me show you. It's a real estate broker actually out in Florida. You know who I'm talking about? Jared Jones? Pretty solid stuff, actually. Really enjoy. And then I'm surprised no one said, obviously, Rebel Capitalist. Rebel Capitalist.
George Gammett. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I can't believe you guys didn't say that. So obviously him.
George is up there too. Yeah. And George works with Jeff Snyder a lot also. They do a lot of collaborations. He's pretty good. Yep.
Yeah.
So, I have a question for y'all. That was only two. The question.
Yeah, you're not done. No. Number 3.
I demand one more.
I demand it.
Man, I don't know. Let me just pull up my phone real quick.
Look at that Logan guy. You really like him, don't you?
Oh,
yeah.
Logan?
Logan.
No, I just want to be one of the guys that trolls him back. Honestly, I appreciate his spirit.
Hey, while Travis is thinking, can I throw one more in there? Honorable mention.
Yes.
A channel that maybe not so much finance content, but teaches you to think critically before you go make an investment somewhere. CoffeeZilla. CoffeeZilla. He's got a huge following. He doesn't use any of the cheap ways to make money that a lot of the big channels do. He doesn't use all the affiliates and everything. And he has broken up more scams and more crypto Ponzi's and stuff. CoffeeZilla. The things he looks at and the frauds that he exposes, I think if you see how he investigates companies and scams, it can make you a better investor because you will be more likely to spot the next scam because you'll see those commonalities with other ones before they get exposed. So I highly recommend CoffeeZilla as well.
I'm going to go with Michael. I used to listen to him before I was a YouTuber. I think he's super entertaining. He doesn't do too many videos anymore, but I mean,
he's the Holy Smokes guy. Yeah, I know Michael Cole.
I like him a lot. He's a pretty cool guy. But I want to pass this back, getting a little bit more serious. Okay, here we go. Oh, we got 2. Let's go and do 2 super chats real quick. Let's start with Don't Move. Thank you, brother Austin. Let's pull up Whitney Webb real quick.
Oh yes, of course. Whitney Webb. She wrote One Nation Under Blackmail Volume 1 and 2, which I've read both. That would be amazing. So okay, she Unlimited Hangout is her. She has her own website. It's better to go there. Yeah,
you're definitely going to need one of these if you're going to read Whitney Webb. I tell you,
and she's an encyclopedia, guys.
Encyclopedia of tinfoil, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm not saying that mockingly. Her research is incredible.
I don't know what her channel is, honestly. I mean, here's
Unlimited Hangout. No, go to her. She has a website. She doesn't have a channel.
Okay. So that's why I don't have it. All right. So Whitney Webb. Let's see. And then Economic Ninja. No one said Economic Ninja.
I've worked with Ninja before. Ninja, he's invited me to conferences. He's had me on his channel before. I've had him on my channel. Ninja is a stand-up guy. He is really nice. He just loves to help.
In 2008, most people did not understand.
That sounds like Ninja. I couldn't see him on screen there. There he is. He runs another channel called Real Estate Ninja too. He just loves to help people. Let me just tell you that. Like, I remember watching him. We went to a conference one day and we met one of the guys at the conference, and he decided he was going to start his own YouTube channel. And Ninja just brings the guy on his channel, blows him up in a day, blew him up to a few thousand subscribers within like 2 hours, which most people usually take months. It's just the kind of guy he is. So, yep, that's another really good one. I had to pick 2 or 3, man. So it's hard to pick 2 or 3. I follow 30, 40 channels.
Johnny is, of course, noting we didn't mention Danielle, but I consume all of her content across all channels, so I often don't think about her channel. But that is also, it is a good channel for getting her content for sure if you miss it elsewhere.
Melody, can I ask you, so a big day today, obviously, still a lot of changes, a lot going on. It's only Monday. What is the biggest takeaway for you today? What's the biggest story, biggest takeaway?
So I feel, I think that's what I was kind of talking about earlier, Travis, is just the fact that with all of this, the flight to safety trade got arrested in the middle of the day. And I think that was probably unexpected to a lot of people. And I think it could be very telling for those that have been talking about the Fed cutting rates and how that might impact mortgage rates. And something you and I have been talking about is, yes, rates will come down directionally, but they may not come down at the pace that people are expecting, and enough such to impact mortgage rates. And so this is going to be, over the next several weeks, is going to be very interesting to watch, to give us a sense of where rates might be going for the rest of the year. But more importantly, folks, we think that the fact that you are seeing the bond market rates come down at all means that people are waking up to the fact that the consumer is dead. The consumer has spent their last credit card dollar, and layoffs are accelerating. And so things are not looking so great from here.
Solid. Real quick before I ask you the same thing, Jack. Big shout out to Scrog. You know what I'm going to ask you, Scrog. Put it in the comment section. What am I going to ask you? But he's giving a shout out to Cowan and Mitch Ray.
I actually don't know those names.
Right here. There's Mitch Ray.
Ones. Yeah.
So we got Mitch Ray. Pretty interesting stuff here.
Seems like a lot of crypto there.
Yeah, and I want to see if he knows the question that I'm going to ask. You know the question? I only have one question for you, buddy. What is it? What is the question? All right, let's see this other YouTuber. Okay, so here's, oh my gosh, this dude is, see, he knows what's up. Okay, so here's the other one. He knows what's up because, thanks for the support, brother.
Hey, everyone, and thanks for jumping
He knows what's up because
Universe.
what's up is he's a recent purchaser, and I keep telling him to file his homestead so that he does not allow the county assessor, who we know a lot about now, to rip him off. Isn't that right, Scrog? And thank you again. The homestead, exactly. You got it, brother. Jack, what's the biggest takeaway for you today?
I was blown away by how predictably weak the Keynesian economists and the financial elites are, and the financial press. They were out there screaming, stomping their feet like a toddler throwing a tantrum, demanding emergency rate hikes from the Federal Reserve today. The second these trades go against them, they start complaining and whining. And won't somebody change the rules so I can't lose money? Shut up and take your losses, you weak sauce, pansy little. There I go. I'm getting emotional now, Travis. Look, I have a video coming out later today. I just shot it before we did this live stream about why emergency rate cuts from the Federal Reserve would be a horrible idea. They'll only make things worse. You'll have to see that on my channel in a few hours. I don't want to give it all away. But it will exacerbate the decline of the yen carry trade, and it will cause a surge in inflation expectations. It would be a terrible idea to come out right now with emergency rate cuts from the Fed. I don't think we're going to get it. The market right now is pricing it in like it's a certainty that the Fed cuts 50 in September. I think if the Fed cuts 50 in September, they'd be admitting that they screwed up, and they'd be losing even more face, which after the failure of transitory and the soon-to-be failure of the soft landing narrative, I don't know how they can go cut 50 basis points. But isn't it just amazing how quick they go screaming for another handout from the central bank the second things go against them? They're just so predictably weak, Travis. That's all.
They really are. And I just adding to that, I think you're starting to see the message already get managed, right? Was it Goolsby that was out earlier today? I think what they're going to say is everybody's just panicking. Why are you freaking out about this little rise in unemployment? I mean, I think that's the way that they're going to manage the message, right? Because I agree, Jack. I don't think, after the taper tantrum, right, in 2019, I think Powell's not going, now anything is possible, but I don't think that he's just going to turn around and just bend to the will of these crybabies. So, I think some folks might be shocked here. It'll be very interesting to see. What do you think, Trav?
I'm gonna sum mine up real easy. Cash is king. Cash is well. Hold on. I understand the
Wait a minute, Trav.
devaluation.
Are we gonna leave? Are we gonna leave this garbage on the screen down here? Johnny Fly is trolling us here, and I don't want people taking that stuff seriously. So we gotta handle that.
This comment, Jack. This comment is up for us to handle. I was just trying to answer Melody's question. Shame on you, Jack. I was getting there. All right. You know what? You want to
I'm
tag
fine.
team it? Let's go into Dave Ramsey. All right. Let's go into Dave Ramsey. I want you, Jack, because you're so passionate. I want you to say some pros and I want you to say one thing nice about him, one thing that you don't like. And I want you to sum up one thing you do like.
Okay, there are some people out there who have no self-control, none whatsoever. As soon as they get money, they spend it. They can't be trusted with credit cards. They can't control their shopping habits. They lean on people to get out of debt. People come and help them. And then as soon as they're helped, they get right back into debt. And they just, no matter what it is, they're going to go into debt. It's not a function of their income. It's a function of their lack of financial discipline. All right. So these people think if I just get a raise, I'll be okay. They won't. If they get a raise, they're just going to spend more money. Those people should listen to Dave Ramsey because they have no self-control. And if you have no discipline and no self-control, then Dave Ramsey's advice is good for you. If you are capable of controlling yourself, as I think most people are, Dave Ramsey's advice is not good, in my opinion. And Jim Cramer is a clown and a puppet of the financial services industry. And I'll just leave it there.
Oh, excuse me. I don't ever want to make Jack upset, Melody. Dave, I have mine. Dave Ramsey. One bad thing. Make sure to say one good thing. Dave Ramsey. Oh, I lost you.
She didn't want to.
We still got audio. Oh, there she is.
She's back.
Yeah. All right. We're going solo.
I really don't want to. But no, I just, this is a pet peeve of mine that people don't respect their platforms. And when you have big platforms, I mean, this is somebody that, especially, in Christianity, so many people listen to. He teaches courses at churches. I mean, and so anybody that sort of, in my opinion, disrespects his platform the way that he has and the way that it feels as if he is now, I know, Julius, it is a trap, feels as if he can, he sell leads and do things like that. Travis, this subject is just a little too galling to me for me to talk about. But I think, like Jack, there were probably some people that he helped with debt early on in their as they were starting their families out, things like that. But
and you said that's too Gilligan? Too Gilligan for you? Is it? What do you mean
Gilligan? Galling.
Like a C is galling.
Galling.
Okay. We got a super chat. I just wanted to say my thing real quick as far as Dave Ramsey. One of the things I really appreciate is his platform. At least he has a platform that is designed for people that are like on their last leg to enter into. So at least he has a segue into something. So I want to give him credit for that. And he has helped people understand how credit works, utilization ratio, good spending habits, just like basic stuff that we should be learning in honestly elementary school. But I got to give him a lot of respect for that. He has a huge piece of the pie as far as those people struggling. But the thing that drives me crazy about this son of a gun is he's an absolute clown. He's an absolute fraud, in my opinion. I don't like him at all, other than that front end system. I think he's giving horrible advice. I think he's good, like Jack was saying, at stage one, but anything outside of like exactly what he says, he shames people and he clowns people. And one of the things I wish he would do is explain how using your credit can actually make you money. So I love that, like, don't stay trapped in debt. But to say don't use your credit cards or don't get into debt at all, or only purchase a house at a 15-year, 20% down. There's just a lot of things I don't agree with, and how he shames people and how he's Christian. I don't think people should be, bringing their religion into sell things. So I think the guy's an absolute, grifter, scam artist, and I hope one day they lock him up. And let's not, forget the whole, someone got pregnant under his watch. Oh, let's not forget the gun in the hand room. Okay. You guys remember the handgun? Okay. But that's So we got a comment here. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you. Who has no election due to martial law on their 2020 bingo card? When all else fails, they take you to war. What do you think about that, Melody?
Jack looked like he wanted to say something first.
No chance they do that. That would be a powder keg. I'm gonna look, guys. I appreciate a good tinfoil opportunity as much as the next guy, but everything in moderation. I think that's probably taking it a bit far. I'm not saying everything is going to be squeaky clean. I'm not saying there won't be war. We're already kind of fighting two wars. But the idea of no election, I'm going to go out. I think slim to none, leaning towards none.
Yeah, so I hope there's no chance, but we talk about probabilities, and unfortunately, I think there are things on our bingo card that we can't even imagine for the rest of this year, likely. I hope that this isn't true. I think it would be really not smart in a country like ours, but and the only way it would be effective, to Jack's point, because I think he's right. It would that is taking a real chance in this country. The only way is that we were so terrified. And guys, unfortunately, there's evidence when you look at how we responded to what happened during COVID. People will say, did we become more resistant or did we become more acquiescent? So I don't think so, but I also don't think we can rule anything out.
Man, I should have never looked at those border crossing results. I'm just gonna say I should have never looked at it. But if you guys look at the Department of Security, Homeland Security, and you look at the border crossings and who they're like screening and all that type of stuff, it's real bad. It's like, I think, like prior to Biden being president, I think they were doing like less than 10 a year. Like they would apprehend someone that was on a terrorist list. Like it was like less than 10 a year. And it got to in the hundreds. And it's been just escalating. And the reason is because they know they can get away with it. And so that freaking scares me. And obviously I'm in Texas. So I'm not talking about illegal immigration. Again, I'm just talking about terrorism. And that freaks me out because, again, it's like no one thought that, I was out in a tournament when Trump got shot at. I didn't see that coming. And then immediately after, where's Biden? And where's he right now? And that all happened within a week. And look at the racism out there. My God. I think they were trying to dupe us. I don't want to get my tinfoil hat out. I think they're trying to dupe us. And I can't see that happening. That's honestly my biggest fear. I don't talk about it a lot, but that's my biggest fear for sure.
I would just add to that, Travis, whatever it is they're trying to pull over, they being the ruling class, the financial elites, whatever they're trying to pull over on us, they need us fighting each other to be distracted from what they're doing. So one of the ways they do what they do is by inventing silly things like who gets to use the ladies' room or whatever for us to bicker and argue about while they rob us blind. So always keep your eyes on what they're doing with the offhand.
And, I think G1 this may be a good way to kind of transition us out of here, which is, let's give some predictions of the week. And also, guys, we are going to try to stay live and on top of this because Johnny motivated me the other day. I was crying because I was tired. And he's like, if you don't do it, the government's going to do it. And I'm like, I'm sorry for crying. Thank you for loving me, Johnny. So I'm going to get my butt up. Good point, G1. Predictions of the week. Starting with Melody, can you give us your predictions? How do you see this week playing out?
I don't like to talk about predictions. I like to talk about path. And I think that we have had a lot of events transpire over the last 6 to 8 weeks that have done a lot to shake confidence, to really make people start questioning what is reality. When people started to realize that, maybe Biden wasn't as well equipped, excuse me, to handle this upcoming election. We saw a president get shot at, a whole bunch of things where we are moving ships to the Middle East. We've now had a rout in the stock market with these high flying stocks. So a lot is happening to shake confidence. So what does that mean? What I don't see is and then I think more importantly, honestly, even to those events are some of the things that Jack has been talking about in this AI bubble. And, if there are flaws with these chips, if, for instance, didn't Tesla just recall, like, I can't even remember how many vehicles, all of these high flyers, Google and this DOJ losing this antitrust suit. So I think there's not a lot of opportunity for good news. And so as you look forward to the week and to the next several months, actually keep asking yourself, what is the thing that could happen that would change the path that we're on. And that path is one of deflation. It's one of layoffs, higher unemployment, and it's one of less, financial certainty, and a lot more uncertainty.
My God, I don't know how you did that. Do not expect that from me, Melody. That was amazing. Johnny, I see you. Before getting to Johnny's trolling, which I appreciate very much, Johnny. Thank you. Here's Johnny's trolling if you guys just wanted a heads up on that. I'll get to that in a minute. Jack, how are we moving forward? What do you go ahead, man. What do you see happening?
I was gonna say, are we still talking about the week? Is that so? Look, nothing moves in a straight line in the same direction forever. We are now beginning the 4th week of this sell-off. We've had 3 straight down weeks in a row. The last sell-off that we had in April only lasted 3 weeks. So using that as a gauge, we're due for a bounce. We saw an intraday bounce today, right? Stocks opened with a bloodbath, but then around 10 a.m., we saw them start to swing and turn back upwards again. We saw the yen give up some of its gains. We saw stocks recover a little bit. We saw Bitcoin recover a little bit. We saw that flight to safety trade in the bond market turn into a little bit of bond market selling. We actually saw the middle of the yield curve actually sold off a little bit. We ended up having positive interest rates there. So nothing moves in a straight line forever. And also nothing is going to happen quickly here. The yen carry trade took years to develop into the monster that it is right now, right? It's been going on for several years. I mean, you'd probably go back to like 2010 if you really wanted to. It's not going to unwind in 3 days or even 3 weeks. This is a process that is going to play out over months. If you zoom out on the charts, the yen has a long way to fall before it gets back to anything resembling normalcy. And there's a lot of carry trade to unwind in that process. So whatever this was that we saw today, it's not over, but it's also not going to move in a straight line. And this is a time to avoid losses. This is not a time to get greedy. This is a time to be careful. Be real careful with your margin and your leverage. And yeah, that's about it, Trev.
All righty, let's throw up Johnny's comment, but real quick, just what I see. Johnny gets me so riled up sometimes. It's very hard for me to keep. I mean, he's got me drowning over here, you guys. I'm drowning. I totally lost my train of thought. All I can think about is his dog. It was very hard. He let me stay with him, and his dog fell in love with me. Literally, he had to drag his dog away from me because his dog loved me so much and wanted to leave him. And so before getting to this comment, let me tell you what I see coming up. And I love you, Johnny. Let me see what basically what I see coming up this week is more consumer awareness. I pray more consumer awareness. I know it's going to be painful, but probably just more painful reality, more pullback, more forced selling, more struggling. And as far as his comments, the thing is, I know Melody has respect for some of these people, probably just the rat. So I don't want to say anything bad, but I will say, yes, I do have these books, each of these books, emergency toilet paper. You guys remember when the toilet paper was pretty much off the shelves and it was like $50 for one roll, $50. So, I needed more toilet paper and naturally I got these books.
Hey, you have to know your enemy, Travis. You have to know. You have to do the research, dive in. So, and then you decide what to do with that paper.
I mean, it's not, I would say more like an AI generated throw up. I'm just kidding. So another comment right here from MNJ. The Uneducated Economist has some really good, interesting insights sometimes. Small channel, but worth. Oh my God, checking out. There's our man. G-Win, I didn't tell you.
So real quick, before you change it, Trev.
Yeah.
First of all, don't call Uneducated Economist a small channel because he's bigger than me. So that makes me feel terrible. But Simon is his name. He runs the Uneducated Economist. He's got a really unique perspective. He's a blue collar guy, but has a very good knack for macroeconomics based on the volume of things he sees moving in and out of the lumber yard and the lead times. So actually, I think Travis, you and Melody would really like Uneducated Economist.
I've seen him. Yeah.
He's the guy who does all of his videos in his car with the fuzzy dice.
Yeah,
there.
and
So
but he has such good his I've watched several of his stuff on lumber, and his just the way that he delivers that information. I also like him a lot. Yep.
yeah, good call, M&J. Thank you.
Good call. And to G1, I only looked at it as redirection. This I don't know, man, woman. I think, man, you have been such a huge supporter of this channel. No one has supported us like you have. I think they gave us $100 super chat, one of our first super chats, and then we went and ended our live. So I wish you would comment more. I know you do. Thank you so much. This means a lot to us. Obviously, we're working hard.
What is that, a
trying to
hippo or a transformer in that super sticker that he gave us? I don't know, but I want one, whatever it is. It doesn't come up. StreamYard doesn't bring the super stickers up on screen for some reason.
I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, we'll call it a hippo transformer. It's
You know, and I'll-
hippopotamus prime. We'll call it.
I will say though, I just end here, and then let's give it to Melody to get us out of here. I will say, I was just joking with the whole toilet paper thing. Good, on ORAT doing his book. Maybe I'm wrong about the grifting. I'm always willing to talk, right? I mean, it's kind of, we're getting a little petty here and there, but the reality is, I mean, dude, it's them against us. And even though they're a redheaded stepchild, we may not like, especially on Christmas when inflation's high, because they cry all the time. My God, like they can't shut up, but they're still part of family. And in that, I think we should sign off.
Okay, I'm at first, Jack. Any last words from you before we?
Just one to keep an eye on, guys. Keep an eye on ARM Holdings and SoftBank. All right. ARM Holdings is a semiconductor company. They're one of the new up and coming ones. And SoftBank is a Japanese private equity firm that owns 90% of the shares of ARM Holdings. And it's a Japanese financial house that is probably
made
in
a lot of bad
trouble.
decisions, right?
They've made a lot of bad decisions, right? Masa-san is a known gambler and a risk taker. His company, even though they own 90% of ARM Holdings stock, his company is worth less than that 90% share of ARM Holdings, because the market knows if he ever had to sell, he would crash the price of ARM Holdings. And so I think ARM Holdings is vulnerable to both the collapse of the AI trade, the collapse of the volatility trade, and the yen carry trade, because they have direct exposure to all three. So if you want to know if this thing is really going overboard, watch ARM and watch SoftBank for the next few weeks.
Thanks, Jack. And so, yeah, guys, just final words, and it's really summing up a lot of what we're saying here. There is a lot going on. It is crazy out there. Before making rash decisions, kind of take a step back, talk to other people. But honestly, do your research. If you don't understand what you're investing in, you probably shouldn't be investing in it. I think that was something that Mitch said earlier today that I agree with as well. And so honestly, we're going to be here with you through. It's going to be a very rocky time. I can't wait. The question earlier was, what else could we expect to see over the next, or what's the prediction? One thing I think we're going to see, Jack, is we're going to see a lot of goodwill impairments at some of these companies.
That goodwill is very impaired these days. Yes.
Yeah, those goodwill impairments, that's always a sign of where you are in the market. And many companies, tomorrow, Airbnb actually announces, Trav, you and I, hopefully, or maybe we even do it here on DNN after, because I cannot wait to see how those actors spin what's going on over there. And they always have some huge FX position. So I think this is going to get really interesting. But guys, just stay calm, stay cool, seek out, the people that you trust, and we're going to be here for you. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again very soon. We'll make sure and announce that when it does happen. But thanks again. And always remember that math matters.